Can aluminum wiring in your home really endanger you and your family's life? If you have a home built during the mid-60s to the mid-70s, there is a very real possibility you have aluminum wiring making up your electrical service, and this can be a very serious fire hazard. To be precise, the aluminum wiring in and of itself is perfectly safe. This means, although it may be contained in your wall spaces, it is not at risk. It is in its connections to electrical components that are the problem. The Vietnam War was draining supplies and forcing the price of copper to skyrocket when home builders asked aluminum wiring producing companies to manufacture residential electrical branch circuit wiring as an affordable option. Since these companies were already producing aluminum cables for commercial and industrial applications, high wire transmission lines, and community electrical grids, it was assumed residential aluminum wiring would be a natural addition to those products. Unfortunately, no one anticipated the problems that would ensue when this new wiring was connected to components such as switches, receptacles, lights, electrical panels, and other wiring. It was assumed that to connect aluminum to these components would be the same as copper, and the existing proven safe copper-rated connectors and methods were employed by residential electricians to complete the aluminum connections back in those days. In a relatively short period of time, the connection problems revealed themselves. In 1974, the first verified deaths occurred as a result of an aluminum connection failure. Quote, on April 28, 1974, 2 people died in a home in Hampton Bays, New York. Fire officials determined that the fire was caused by an overheating aluminum wire connection at a wall receptacle. Unquote. U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, Repairing Aluminum Wiring, publication 516, June 2011. The properties of aluminum wiring are different than copper and present 2 major factors in causing overheating in connections. 1. Aluminum, when heated, expands and contracts further and faster than copper. When this occurs over time, significant gaps can result in the connection forcing the electrical current to leap through the air to complete a circuit demanding power. This can cause tremendous heat that may ignite adjacent materials. 2. Exposed aluminum metal will oxidize, much like iron will rust, forcing a higher current to push through it to complete the circuit, thereby causing an unacceptable heat level. Of course, it is easy to see that these problems do not solve themselves, and indeed get worse as time marches on. With these homes pushing 40+ years in age, it is imperative owners should address this problem sooner than later. Unfortunately, it is almost impossible to know you have a problem with these connections until it is too late. Besides the obvious fire hazard these faulty connections can bring to bear, there is the not-so-obvious problem with your insurance company that can ensue. Insurance companies have reactions to aluminum wiring that span the whole spectrum of possibilities, all the way from no reaction at all to pulling your fire insurance outright when they find out you have aluminum wiring. Be sure to check what their policy is if you have the offending metal in your electrical system. There are only 2 truly acceptable and approved ways to permanently prevent aluminum wiring hazards in your home, according to the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, otherwise known as the CPSC. 1. Replacing aluminum wiring with copper wiring. This is obviously the best method to eliminate aluminum wire hazards in your home. Unfortunately, it can be very costly and time-consuming. Additionally, the wire cannot be installed up to the original code requirements when the home was built, simply because you would have to remove the drywall completely to do so. 2. Proper connectors engineered to connect the aluminum wire to copper wire or other aluminum wire. In combination with a method called pigtailing, these connectors join the aluminum to copper wiring, which is then connected to regular copper electrical components. Far more affordable and just as safe as replacing with copper wire, there are 2 acceptable connectors researched and tested by top engineers and scientists commissioned by the CPSC. A. Copeland. A special crimper crushes these connectors so as to create a cold weld between the aluminum to copper or aluminum to aluminum connections. Unfortunately, the electricians approved to employ this crimper are few and far between, and when available can be very pricey as well. B. Alumicon. In the event copalum can't be used, this connector applied with a Torx screwdriver can be used to safely make the proper connections, and are far more affordable than other methods previously discussed here. There are many other types of connections and connectors hawked by perhaps well-meaning yet naive electricians, but simply none of them are to be used for a permanent removal of aluminum connection hazards. Be sure to use an experienced and licensed electrical contractor to confirm you have aluminum wiring and make these installations for you. Also, it is important to have the proper inspections and approvals from local government inspectors upon completion to satisfy potential insurance concerns.